When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb over 140 years ago, I bet he never expected us to be lighting up lakes and rivers at night chasing giant schools of fish. But here we are. Since the invention of the light bulb, there have been many advances in lighting technology, but maybe none as great as the light-emitting diode, or LED. I bought my first LED floodlights for bow fishing in 2010, and I consider myself to be an early adopter of the technology. When I rolled into my first WBA tournament, the lights on my boat were definitely a topic of conversation, as everyone else was still using high-pressure sodium, metal halide, and halogen lights. So there was skepticism that my lights could compete with these tried and true options. And honestly, I wasn't even sure myself. But I did surprisingly well in that tournament, which gave me the confidence I needed to keep trying. At first, I didn't give much thought to my lights, or the characteristics that could help me see better below the water's surface. And my first lights were cool white, with a color temperature around 5,000 Kelvin, which meant that I was using a bright white light when trying to find fish. For reference, here's a chart that shows exactly what I mean. Unfortunately, the glare from the reflection off the water and the surrounding structures would give me severe eye strain after only a few hours. So after dealing with this for a couple of years and doing a lot more research, I knew that I needed to change. When I purchased a bigger boat in 2012, I wanted to upgrade my lights, and I was more in tune with the available options, even though at the time they were still pretty limited. But I knew exactly what I wanted in the form of Sea Light's 50-watt true warm lights with a color temperature of 2700 Kelvin. They were advertised as the best of both worlds, falling in between the warm orange color of HPS lights and the cooler yellow light of halogen bulbs. And these lights just plain worked. And other than a couple of burned out drivers, some broken brackets, and a few shattered glass bezels, they have been rock solid for the past 10 years. However, as I stuck by these lights, the technology kept advancing, and it wasn't clear to me just how far I was falling behind until I got a call from Trevor at Outrigger Outdoors. He had a product he wanted me to take a closer look at, and I could tell from his explanation that he was confident in its performance. So I decided to try a couple of them out. Now come along with me to Lake of the Ozarks for my first experience with the Swamp Eye HD 160 watt lights from Outrigger Outdoors. But before we go, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to get notified when more content like this is available. Let's take a look at what we get when we purchase a Swamp Eye HD Bowfishing light from Outrigger Outdoors. This is the 160 watt LED model. First of all, you get an instruction sheet that explains how to set up both a generator or a 24-volt system. It comes very well packaged in styrofoam. Here's the light itself. The light has 10 chipsets, pretty robust heatsink on the back. And one thing I noticed right away when I looked at these lights is the mounting bar is very significant. The mounting bar is going to really hold up to the rigors of bow fishing when you're traveling to and from your destinations, both on the road and on the water. It seems to be drilled in very common locations for mounting. So if you've had other lights on your boat, it would probably go right into the place where those lights currently are. On the bottom of the light, we have the connection for the on and off switch and the light color selector, as well as the power cord that comes out. In the box, you have a cord that allows you to convert to 24-volt DC, and you've got a positive and a negative lead, and that can connect right onto the light itself. And then we also have the power supply or converter. This converts AC power to DC power. It says it'll accept an AC input of 90 volts AC all the way up to 264 volts AC, and the output is 24 volts DC. You can see that this end will plug straight into a generator, and then this end would plug right into the power output of the light. Let's take a look at that real quick. So as far as the power supply is concerned, there's two prongs, a positive and a negative, and then there's a little key. That little key in there will make sure that you connect it properly every time. We slide that in, allow it to seat, and then there's a plastic cover that slides up and over, and then you screw that down, and that makes that connection waterproof. Very simple. Very similar on the other side as far as the color selector switch is concerned. This is the color selector switch. It's a push-on off button as well as a rotating dial which allows you to make the color selection. So it's an on and off switch as well as a color selector. This output right here has a little gasket. In fact, both sides have little gaskets on them, little rubber O-rings, which allows the seal to be made. Again, there's a keying that allows you to make sure that you connect this properly every time. It will only go on one way. If you wanted to use the DC connection instead, this, slide it up until it meets the O-ring, and similar to before, slide the cap up and on, screw it down, and now you have a nice watertight connection. You would connect this directly to a battery. You would connect this directly to a generator. Now, if you have multiple lights, you're going to want to be able to connect them together in some way. Now, as far as the power is concerned, you could run the power to a common junction spot, or you could run it directly to a 24-volt source, meaning 2 batteries. Or you could, like I said, run it to a common junction spot and then run a heavier gauge wire to accept the amp load from all of the lights back to your battery location. If you want to run multiple lights, there is additional pieces that are available called the building block wiring harness, which gives you some options as far as extending the length of the cabling, as well as giving you the ability to connect multiple lights together. Let's take a look at what that looks like. One of the pieces is a T-connector, which allows you to extend the length of the control dial connection. There is also an extension for the power cable. Unfortunately, I was not provided with one of those, but it's essentially a 40-inch extension, which allows you to extend the power cable to the converter or to the DC cable that you have. It also comes with an extension for the control dial. You would put your control dial at the end. So let's simulate putting this light together with another light in series. So with your T connector, you're going to install one end of this, and then you can see how this extends to the other side and allows the switch to be placed farther away. And assuming you have another light, you will connect this portion of it, and this would go to the second light. You can do that for as many wiring harnesses as you wanted to purchase. You would need this T connector in order to ensure that you have waterproof connections all the way through. This one switch will control all of the lights at that point, and when you turn the dial, it will select the proper color for all of the lights. One thing that you're going to notice about all of this equipment that's been provided by Outrigger Outdoors is the build quality. All of this is exceptionally well made. You're really going to appreciate the fact that all of these connections are waterproof. There's no need for heat shrink or soldering, unless you, for example, wanted to use a common junction point with the 24-volt system. As far as, using the converter / power supply, if you had multiple lights, you would simply connect all of these to a power strip and then run the power strip extension cord back to the generator if the generator is too far away. I think there's a lot of great options here, and the nice thing about all of this is that you're going to be able to very quickly install lights on your boat. Once you have a few holes drilled and mounting the bracket, everything should last you for quite a long time. I'm really looking forward to getting these out on the water and seeing just how much of a significant improvement there is over the lights that I currently have. Here's the Swamp Eye HD 160 mounted right on my boat. As you can see, I still have my older lights on here. This light was able to mount directly into the bracket location that the old lights were mounted to. Installation was very quick and simple. I didn't drill any holes specifically to run any of the wiring for this light. I've got my power cable right here, and I connected it to the DC converter, and I ran it directly back to the generator in the back of my boat. And then I connected the control switch right here, and I was able to mount the control switch up here and give me the option to change the coloration of the light while I was out on the water. And as far as on the water performance, you got to check out the rest of the video, because we not only tried out just one light against just one of the 50-watt lights that I had on the other side, so you can see how much more power there is coming out of one light here. You'll see that we actually found quite a few fish last night. You can see them in both lights, but by far you can see them way better using the higher powered light. So I hope you really enjoy the footage that we got from last night. Thank you. I can honestly say that I was not expecting that level of action for this time of year, and the Swamp Eye HD lights performed flawlessly. I knew that they would be bright, but I wasn't expecting the coverage that I got from just 2 lights. They easily outperformed the 5 lights on the opposite side of the boat, and I was seeing fish silhouettes about a foot deeper on the Swamp Eye side. The plug-and-play connections are foolproof, the brackets are stout, and the bezels are a polycarbonate blend, which are both heat and impact resistant. I have no concerns that once these lights were permanently mounted, they would offer years of maintenance-free service. However, a good review is always an honest review, and one of my first concerns was the switch used to turn on the lights and adjust the color temperature. The rotation of the dial is soft, and it's easy to bypass the next color in the spectrum if you turn it too quickly. The feel of the on and off press is also soft, but it still worked well. However, by no means do I consider these quirks a deal breaker, as it was quick and easy to dial the lights back to where I wanted them. As for mounting the switches, I use a control box and joystick on my front deck for my kicker, and I currently have rocker switches mounted into that box. I imagine that if I were to put the Swamp Eye rotary switches on the back side of that box, I wouldn't be bumping into them and accidentally shutting the lights off or changing the color. And this would be easy enough to do, since you can use screws, bolts, or the provided 3M adhesive backing mounting options. When it comes to the color changing options, the Swamp Eye utilizes 2 distinct colors in each chipset: a 2000 Kelvin warm chip that appears pretty orange in the water, and a 6000 Kelvin cool chip that is a stark white light. These are the options on the ends of the dial's range, and there are 6 additional options in between to create a blending of these colors. Unfortunately, I couldn't replicate the exact color of my 2700 Kelvin lights for a true comparison, but there was a relatively close option at one point on the dial. As I stated earlier, I really prefer warmer colored lights, but the warmest color didn't offer great contrast with the fish I spotted. However, the next 2 options, which put more white light into the mix, really helped the fish pop out. Unfortunately, the coolest options on the dial gave me flashbacks to my 2010 eye strain days. I fished all over the country and I have never missed that stark white light, or believed that it would benefit me in any situation. However, this still may be a great option that suits your particular preferences and needs very well. In fact, the best part about the color selector is that you have actual options, unlike nearly all other lights on the market that only come in one fixed color. These lights allow you to literally dial in the best color for the conditions at hand. The only other concern that I would have was how could I run multiple lights around my boat without having to drill holes for each light's power cord. But Trevor at Outrigger Outdoors told me that a solution was pending. He explained that in a similar fashion to the way the on and off switch could use T-connectors to control multiple lights, they were crafting a T-connector for the power cords that would allow up to 6 lights to be strung in series from one power supply. And the production runs for this part should be available in February. Now, as far as price, the Swamp Eye HD 160 is not cheap. With a price tag of $250 per light, and the components in the building block wiring harness being sold separately, each additional piece could add $4 to $8 to the price, depending on your needs. So this may put these lights outside the budget for some folks. But there's a saying, buy the best and cry only once. And I know that you can be confident with the purchase of these lights that you're getting one of the most advanced lights on the market. Plus, with the great coverage from just one light, you may need fewer lights in your array overall, which could save you money. So if you're in the market for a new light setup, or maybe want to augment your existing array, you should consider the Swamp Eye HD 160 from Outrigger Outdoors as an excellent long-term solution for your setup. And if you want to learn more about their products, visit their website at the link below in the comments. Also, if you're inclined to have a night on the water like I experienced in the video, I offer guided bow fishing trips with all equipment included through obscuredventures.com. And we are currently booking for the 2023 season. As always, thanks for watching, and please spend a little bit more time by watching these videos, as well as following us on Facebook, and check out our website at twibowfishing.com for even more great content.